Good morning. Good morning. To everybody here and to those of you online, we welcome you. My name is Sandra Murphy. I prefer the pronoun she, her, hers. And this is the Unitarian Universalist congregation of Flint. We are an inclusive, progressive, LGBTQINA plus affirming church, and we are very happy that you are with us this morning. If you'd like more information about Unitarian Universalism or this congregation, you can contact our ministers, Reverend Lynn and Kerr, or you can contact the office. Our contact information is at the website uuflint.org. More information on our announcements and other relevant church news can be found in our weekly e-update. If you'd like to get this once a week newsletter, you can fill out one of the cards in the seat back, look like this. Leave it in the basket at the back of the church and we'll add you, or you can scan the QR code, which is on the back of the order of service. And so for our announcements, the McCree Theater is hosting a production of The Soul of Etta James. Tickets are $10 and the show runs through March 4th. There appears to be some planning or talking about organizing a group, but if not, you can go as individuals. It's a show that you won't want to miss. Everyone is welcome to join us immediately after our service today for a congregational meeting. We will vote on our delegates for General Assembly, which is going to be in Pittsburgh this summer, and we will be voting on instructions to give to them about some article. I'm sure you've all read about it in the e-update. You can also join the congregational meeting through Zoom by using the usual coffee hour code. You are invited to see Deidre McCullough in concert here at UUCF on March 11th at 7:30 p.m. Tickets are $15 at the door only. This concert is being presented by the Flint Folk Music Society. Michigan is currently working on strengthening gun safety laws and is in a position to become a leader in common sense gun law reform. Terry Cross will be at coffee hour and have a computer next week to help you send an email to your state senator, state representative, and the state Senate majority leader. With all of our collective help, we could see some change, and you don't need to wait till next Sunday. These are easy things that you could do. Just Google it. And so now for our chalice lighting. As we light this chalice, let us remember to honor the gift of life which burns in each of us. Now, if you'll join me in saying our covenant with feeling, recognizing the richness of diversity, the beauty and wonder of shared worship, and the transforming power of love and service, we gather as a sacred, intentional community to freely seek knowledge and truth, to celebrate the fullness of life, and by our actions to increase goodness and justice.
Cindy is with some children, so I'm going to do the opening words for you. Our opening words are from the poem by Kahlil Gibran. As a man runs from the clamor of the city and enters the forest, he encounters a nymph who he challenges to tell him if truth and beauty still exists. She replies, "Beauty is nature itself. It is the beginning of the shepherd's joy among the hills, and a villager's happiness in the fields, and the pleasure of the awe-filled tribes between the mountains and the plains. Beauty is that which attracts your soul, and that which loves to give and not to receive. It is the magnificence combined of sorrow and joy. It is the unseen which you see, and the vague which you understand, and the mute which you hear. It is the holy of holies that begins in yourself and ends vastly beyond your earthly imagination." After our words for meditation today and our time of silence, you'll be invited to come forward and light a candle of joy or concern if you like, or you can also go to the back of the sanctuary and light a candle of joy or concern there. And you can also, if you like, write in the book, and your joy or concern will be printed in our weekly e-update. Our words of meditation are those of Anna Quindlen. She's a Pulitzer Prize-winning columnist and best-selling author. You are the only person alive who has the sole custody of your life, your particular life, your entire life, not just your life at a desk or your life in the car or at a computer, not just the life of your mind, but the life of your heart. Not just your bank account, but your soul. But people don't talk about the soul very much anymore. It's so much easier to write a resume than it is to craft a spirit. But a resume is cold comfort on a winter night, or when you're sad, or broke, or lonely, or when you've gotten back your chest x-ray and it doesn't look good. So I guess the best piece of advice is pretty simple. Get a life. Get a life in which you stop and watch how a red-tailed hawk circles over a pond in a stand of pines. Get a life in which you pay attention to the baby as she scowls with concentration when she tries to pick up a Cheerio with her thumb and first finger. Get a life in which you are not alone. Think of life as a terminal illness, because if you do, you will live it with joy and passion, as it ought to be lived. You just need to get a life, a real life. Let's join together in 90 seconds of silence. Amen.
Leah Hall and the other contributors and editors of the magazine Country Living did what almost every other magazine and newspaper and TV show did in January. They printed several articles on New Year's resolutions. Some were the same old, and some were ones that were for real people like us, things that might actually be achievable if you're brave enough. Here are the diet-free New Year's resolutions that I collected. There might be one or two here that you might actually consider.
Drink your morning coffee before you brush your teeth.
Put fake flamingos in a friend's yard for their birthday or an anniversary.
Read more.
Start counting down to Christmas on your calendar in July.
Exercise your right to Taco Tuesday.
Perfect your favorite celebrity impression.
Be on a first-name basis with your regular DoorDasher.
Invite friends and watch your favorite series back to back all weekend.
Send birthday cards. Homemade from your computer are just as nice.
Keep gum or mints with you at all time and be the person that always has them to offer after meals.
Bring up your Enneagram number or your Myers-Briggs type any chance you can and get friends to find out theirs. I already do that. Sorry.
Learn the Michael Jackson Thriller dance for Halloween.
Start a meme account.
Work Time Will Tell into conversations at least once a week.
Stay in an out-of-the-ordinary Airbnb at least once, like a treehouse or an Airstream trailer.
Actually, we're going to do that.
Oh?
I'll tell you about it later. We're staying in an alpaca enclosure.
The alpaca farm. Yeah.
For our son. Rearrange some drawers in your kitchen again.
Got a little junk in your trunk? Empty out the trunk of your car, literally. Clean it and find some treasures.
Write one snail mail letter a month.
Have a Sunday dinner with friends at least once a month.
Rearrange some drawers in your kitchen again.
Order every drink on the Starbucks menu, but not on the same day.
Schedule more girl time.
Compliment someone every day and mean it.
Could you repeat that one?
No.
Make your bed every day.
Journal one line a day.
Grow something.
Drink more water.
Try something new every month.
Break some other New Year's resolutions and don't feel guilty about it.
If you want to sing out, sing out. And if you want to be free, be free. 'Cause there's a million things to be. You know that there are. And if you want to live high, live high. And if you want to live low, live low. 'Cause there's a million ways to go. You know that there are. And if you find a new way, you can do it today. You can make it all true, and you can make it undo. You see, it's easy. You only need wanna say yes, say yes. And if you wanna say no, say no. 'Cause there's a million ways to go, you know that there are. And if you wanna be me, be me. And if you wanna be you, be you. 'Cause there's a million things to do, you know that there are. You can do what you want, the opportunity's on. And if you find a new way, you can do it today. You can make it all true, and you can make it undo. You see, it's easy. You only need to know. Well, if you wanna sing out, sing out. And if you wanna be free, be free. 'Cause there's a million things to be. You know that there are, 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 you know that there are.
Thank you, Pia. And you might recognize this voice and face. Thank you for being here and filling in. You are welcome anytime. And she has another engagement, so if you see her sneak out early, it's not that she does not love us. Just want to be clear. "64 years ago, in March, a small caravan of Tibetan cavalrymen traveled through a Himalayan pass in total darkness. They were extremely cautious and constantly sent scouts out ahead of them in search of communist troops that may be looking for them. Communist Chinese soldiers had been questioning and executing monks and destroying buildings and shrines all over Lhasa, Tibet. They were in search of the missing Dalai Lama. The caravan of 110 officials and soldiers and mule tenders had the formidable charge of a successful escape of the 23-year-old 14th Dalai Lama into India. After 3 weeks, His Holiness had crossed the border. Now, some Buddhists believed it was only through their prayers that mist and very low clouds provided cover so that they made the escape successful. All of this for a man who repeatedly reminds others that he considers himself one of just 7 billion regular human beings. Nothing special, he says. Nonetheless, he's also a major spiritual leader of Buddhism, Tibetan Buddhism, a Nobel Peace Prize winner, and he wonders sometimes, most importantly, he has 19 million followers on Twitter. He's just ahead of Pope Francis. His Holiness, the 14th Dalai Lama's popularity stems not only from his worldwide religious following, but people admire him from all around because he has a still small voice that asks people to treat one another with compassion. Another Nobel Prize winner and close friend of the Dalai Lama's is Archbishop Desmond Tutu, who passed away in 2021. Desmond Tutu also had close calls in his struggle for freedom. The Archbishop gained worldwide attention when he received the Nobel Peace Prize, but he had been fighting apartheid in South Africa, in his home country, most of his life. South Africa had denied Black people the right to vote, had banned interracial marriage, and made it illegal for Black people to enter certain areas or buildings unless they were a servant. It was nearly impossible to get a decent education, and there were humiliating tests for people who were deemed borderline Black or white. They would insert a pencil into someone's hair. If it did not fall out, they were deemed non-white. Tutu admits that at times he wanted to say to God, "God, we know that you are in charge. Why don't you make it slightly more obvious?" In 1986, he finally became South Africa's first Black Anglican Archbishop at the height of the rebellions. Finally, after apartheid, he became the head of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission in 1995. That group looked to help heal the country and looked at the human rights violations during apartheid. It was during his international speaking engagements that he crossed paths first with the Dalai Lama, and then multiple times after that. It was a long and arduous journey to the airport that the 80-year-old Dalai Lama rarely made. But on this occasion, he insisted on meeting his 84-year-old mischievous spiritual brother, the Archbishop, at the airport. That was when he arrived in India in 2015. The Archbishop's failing health was evident as he walked slowly down the stairs, but his embrace and smile with his good friend erased all years and pain from his face. And even before they left the airport, the two began their usual banter and childlike giggling. The Archbishop reminded the Dalai Lama that he didn't come to his 80th birthday party. Of course, that was because the Chinese government had pressured South Africa to refuse a visa to the Dalai Lama. The Archbishop said it was better anyway because he didn't want the Dalai Lama to go there and cause a ruckus. He said wherever the Dalai Lama went, there was too much publicity. He joked that once they were in Seattle and they were both to speak at a venue. And there were so many people that wanted to see the Dalai Lama that they had to move the venue to hear this Buddhist speak. He says, to hear this man speak who doesn't even speak proper English. The two men and their mutual friend and author, Douglas Abrams, had gathered them in India for a mission of joy. Abrams knew two things. First, living a joyful life seemed to be harder and harder to do these days. Secondly, despite multiple hardships, these two men had maintained joy, much joy, in their lives for over 80 years. Abrams wished to explore how they made it through their difficult journeys with an attitude of such enduring peace and joy. They would spend a week together being interviewed, sharing meals and spiritual practices, and filming some of their conversations. The result would be a New York Times bestseller, The Book of Joy, Lasting Happiness in a Changing World, a children's book, a documentary, Mission Joy, that you can actually see right now on Netflix, and a UC Berkeley research project, which I'll tell you about later. Speaking to these particular great spiritual leaders, Nobel Prize winners, and civil rights activists about joy may seem like an obvious choice to you. It's kind of their job, right? Yet these men and some other women and men throughout history are not simply revered leaders at the top of their careers. These inspirational people live and breathe an attitude of joyful exuberance. They have an aura about them that cheers their surroundings, energizes the senses, and urges everyone around them to be better. Without a word, they encompass you with love and compassion, almost like a blanket. Although rare, these people do exist in the world. And when they don't, Hollywood has provided us with fictional characters to admire and perhaps even emulate. At least I do. There is a 1971 fabulous cult classic film, Harold and Maude. I hope some of you have seen it. The story revolves around a 19-year-old young man, Harold, who falls in love with the 79-year-old, almost 80-year-old, free-spirited woman, Maude. Maude is joy incarnate. Initially, Harold's mother sends him to a psychiatrist for his depression and constant pretend suicide attempts. The doctor asks him, "What activity gives you enjoyment? What gives you that special satisfaction?" Harold replies, "I go to funerals." In fact, that is exactly where the two lead characters meet, attending a funeral of a person neither of them knows. Harold goes because it makes him feel closer to death. Maude seeks out the funerals of strangers because it makes her feel more alive. Harold soon discovers that Maude steals any car that strikes her fancy and drives away. When Harold suggests that it might be morally wrong, Maude, with a very Buddhist kind of answer, responds, "Well, if some people get upset because they feel they have a hold on some things, I'm merely acting as a gentle reminder, here today, gone tomorrow, so don't get attached to things." Harold is affected by this very personally when at one point he gives a heartfelt gift to Maude. She said, "This is the nicest gift I've received in years." And then she tosses it into the ocean. Harold gasps as Maude smiles and says in a very comforting tone, "So I'll always know where it is." And in another scene, Maude sings the song that you just heard Pia sing. "If you want to sing out to Harold." It's kind of her theme song. If you want to be free, be free. If you want to be you, be you. This is how Maude lives. And the entire film is a series of vignettes of Maude showing Harold how to find joy in every single moment of life. Now, there are actual scientific names for people who have personality types like this. But Jerry doesn't like me to swear in the pulpit. I mean, some people are bothered by people like this. But seriously, researchers have identified 15 specific kinds of joy that people like this have, their dispositions. Maude, the Archbishop, and the Dalai Lama are best described as possessing what researchers would call shining contentment, or they also call it spiritual radiance. I think the name says it all. Now, my best friend, Sandy, some of you met her at Jerry's ordination, says that that description is perfect, at least for the Dalai Lama. She attended a retreat that he led with about 150 other people about 20 years ago. She vividly remembers that he never once stopped smiling as he spoke for 5 days straight. And he wasn't just talking about joyful things, he spoke about the most challenging times in his life. He recalled being discovered as the 14th Dalai Lama at the age of 2 and snatched away from his family and brought to a 1,000-room palace. There, he was, of course, raised in luxury, but also in complete isolation. He described his tutor in politics and religion keeping a whip close by, forcing him to learn. He said the whip was yellow, a color reserved only for holy people. The Dalai Lama recalled that just because it was a holy color didn't make the punishment any less painful. At the end of the 5 days of lessons and stories, the Dalai Lama greeted each of the 150 participants. He held each individual's hand in his and looked into their eyes. There were no words spoken. Sandy said it was as if you were the only two people in the universe. Everything was said with the eyes and the touch. She said she felt overwhelming compassion flowing from him. Now, maybe you have met someone like that. Or perhaps, like me, you have experienced magical moments or overwhelming compassion or unbridled joy that felt a little bit like that, where every sense is heightened and you might be able to replay that in your mind. And sometimes I even get similar feelings when I witness the pure joy of children or animals playing with abandon. Yet, I have heard from some people that, especially in the last few years, it has been tougher to find that kind of joy. If you are among them, you're not alone. According to the United Nations, the U.S. ranked the 16th happiest country last year, just below Canada, but we're ahead of the UK. Finland ranked number 1 for the 5th year in a row. But the statistics aren't really important. It's what do we do with those statistics, and how do we move up happiness and joy? Now, there's plenty of hard science about it. Zen priest and Harvard scientist Robert Waldinger is currently in charge of a study that actually began in the Depression. He says that the key to being a healthy 80-year-old is relationships, relationships, relationships. That's a quote. He said even partners who constantly bicker but show enduring compassion for one another will live longer and happier. So, Jerry, there's hope for us. He said even those people who in the study, in their 20s, who had lives that looked like train wrecks, turned out to be wonderful 80-year-olds because they would build, if they built compassionate relationships with others. And of course, we can see that that was true for the Archbishop and for the Dalai Lama. However, there's a little bit more science that I think we have to bear in mind about these relationships. 50% of our ability to find happiness and joy is out of our control. Another reason for this is because of our biology and our genetics. We can't control that. Another 10% is beyond our grasp due to our life circumstances. That means where we were born and how much money we have. So, we can control less than half of what impacts how happy our lives are, 40%. So that's depressing. Actually, no, that's not depressing. 40% is not bad, really. And the Book of Joy gives us some solutions. And that's why I wanted to talk about it with you today, so that you can hear that there's potential. And it's actually not too late to talk about setting some New Year's resolutions. We're only a couple months in. So Abrams wanted to show us that 40% of our attitudes and our actions can be harnessed to make joy a consistent part of our daily lives. And he thinks that's a positive. So he sat down with the two men and began a conversation. He started with asking them both how they define joy. They both agreed that happiness and joy were two different things. While happiness is often dependent on outside circumstances, joy is a bigger state of the mind and the heart. Negative outside circumstances can be overwhelming, but we have control of our minds. The Archbishop asked his friend how he can be so joyful and not morose after being exiled from his beloved homeland these many decades, since 1959. The Dalai Lama took the Archbishop's hand in his, and he began to describe that nighttime escape from Tibet in 1959. He had dressed up like a palace guard and taken off his iconic glasses so that he would not be recognized. Then they started the journey, and he really needed those glasses, so his vision was blurred, so that made the journey even more frightening for him. And then they had to sneak through Chinese army encampments and climb 19,000-foot mountain peaks and endure sandstorms and snowstorms. And finally, after 3 weeks, they reached India. And although it really was a terrible trip, the Dalai Lama said that he kept going over in his mind, over and over again, a teaching from a Buddhist in the 8th century. If something can be done about the situation, what need is there for dejection? And if nothing can be done about the situation, what use is there for being dejected? The Archbishop started to laugh. Whether it was because his answer was so simple or whether it was because it was so difficult to understand, we don't know. But the Dalai Lama reiterated to his friend that he knows, and we all know, that worrying does not help. Most of the time, we undermine our own joy because we are unable to accept things the way they are. We hold on tightly to how we think our lives should be, and then we get stress and anxiety. And of course that's simple, and we know it, but we still do it. Rather, he said, the Dalai Lama chooses to remember that he is not the only refugee in the world, and all refugees suffer. And he said, knowing this eases my suffering. The Dalai Lama explained, by taking this wider perspective, he worries less. And lastly, he reminded the Archbishop that his exile also gave him the opportunity to meet interesting people, including the Archbishop. He said, had I stayed in Tibet, I would have remained in a golden cage. He believes in a Tibetan saying, wherever you have friends, that's your country, and wherever you receive love, that's your home. The Archbishop concurred. He said even people like himself, who had been identified as overly joyful, are not protected from the inevitability of hardship and heartbreak. Joy makes us more alive, the Archbishop said. He said his motto was, endure hardship without becoming hard, and heartbreak without becoming broken. These words had been particularly important to him as he fought apartheid, he said. And then he admitted that the more joy in his life he had, the more easily he cries and the more easily he laughs. The Dalai Lama chimed in that humility was good because the Buddha taught that we should go from I and me and mine to we and us and ours. Ah, yes, the Archbishop said, I have a story on that subject. A bishop was about to ordain candidates to the priesthood, and they were speaking about the virtue of humility. One of the candidates asked the bishop, my lord, I have been looking in the library to find a book on humility. The bishop said, oh, yes, I've written the best book on the subject. The Dalai Lama laughed until there were tears in his eyes. Ultimately, both men agreed that in order for joy to fill our lives, we must be able to change our perspective. In simplest terms, we will all have pain in our lives, but that is different than the suffering that comes as a result of our response. The more we move outside ourselves, the better. If we have compassion for others, compassion for ourselves naturally follows and our stress diminishes. Remembering that others are struggling helps us bear the load. Thinking that you are alone in your worries heightens anxiety. They both agreed, we are animals born with joy. But we cannot sustain it without a connection to other people by showing compassion and generosity. Finally, the person doing the interviewing asked them to sum up their thoughts about joy. And they both felt that the understanding of the oneness of all things can help us get through the trials of life. They said that good relationships can help us survive almost anything. As the Archbishop put it, a person is only a person through other persons. In fact, it is the number one factor in determining your quality of life and health as you age. Now, hearing all this from two old guys didn't seem to be enough for the UC Berkeley research staff. So they took all the concepts from the Book of Joy, and they created an online research project called the Big Joy Project. And it's an online project, but they're also doing it at UC Berkeley. And so far, 108 countries have participated and completed 38,572 micro acts of joy. I was one of them. Participants sign up for a week, get daily assignments or acts of joy, and they record the responses for the researchers. And one day as I was doing it, I found I had a huge smile on my face as I was writing. And then another day I was doing it, I felt like a tingling in my fingers. And I really thought I was impervious to, this kind of stuff. But I got sucked in. And so the reason I'm telling you about this is because I found it so refreshing and so positive that I decided I want to share this experience with you. So I'm going to be setting up a small Joyful Living email group. So rather than going on the website and doing it individually, we're going to do it together, just on email. And I have a sign-up sheet, looks like this. And I'm going to put it on the table in the narthex. And it's going to be pretty free-floating because it's designed to be stress-reducing, not inducing. And it's going to get started on March 12th. And let me tell you why, or after March 12th. And let me tell you why. Because I'm going to be speaking and doing this talk with the UU Church in Brighton in a couple weeks. And I'm going to invite them to do it too, because I thought it would be fun to work with some other UUs as well. So I just want to see if we can do some exercises together and do our own little research and see how we feel and if we can increase our joy. And it can be your New Year's resolution. So finally, as I mentioned before, the timing of the gathering to write that book of joy was around the Dalai Lama's 80th birthday. So just before the Archbishop left India, they had a birthday party. And they invited the children's village. And the children were dancing and singing. And the Archbishop couldn't resist, and he stood up and started to dance. And he begged the Dalai Lama to join him. And although his vows prohibited, the Dalai Lama got up and danced with joy for the very first time in his life. A short time later, the Archbishop was ready to go to the airport. The Dalai Lama said, "Perhaps according to your tradition, we may meet in heaven. As a good Christian, you will go first, and you may help bring us together." The Archbishop laughed and told him, "I'll talk to St. Peter for you." The Dalai Lama then held his brother's hands in his for the last time. And though they did not speak, they looked into each other's eyes with immense joy. And then the Dalai Lama watched his friend drive away.
You must seem crazy what I'm about to say. Sunshine, she's here, you can take a break. I'm a hot air balloon, I can go to space. In the air, like I don't care, baby, by the way. Because I'm clap along if you feel like a room without a roof. Clap along if you feel like happiness is the truth. Clap along if you know what happiness is to you. Clap along if you feel like that's what you want to do. Here come bad news, talking this and that. Give me all you got, don't hold it back. I should probably warn you, I'll be just fine. No offense to you, don't waste your time. Because I'm clap along if you feel like happiness is the truth. Clap along if you feel like a room without a roof. Clap along if you know what happiness is to you. Clap along if you feel like that's what you want to do. Bring me down, can't nothing. Bring me down, my level's too high. Bring me down, can't nothing. Bring me down, now my level's too high. Bring me down, can't nothing. Bring me down, because I'm clap along if you feel like a room without a roof. Clap along if you feel happiness is the truth. Clap along if you know what happiness is to you. Clap along if you feel like that's what you want to do.
I'm back. All right, and I'm happy. It's a perfect segue into what we're going to talk about now. So, it's been a rough month for this superhero. I've been out fighting for justice, equality, and trying to find Girl Scout cookies. And the hunt still goes on for that. This whole month, we've been trying to help you connect with your UU superpower. And I thought about this morning that you only need to read our e-update or listen to the announcements, and you know how to connect with your UU superpower. You can advocate for gun safety. You can participate in making blankets for the gift of life. You can attend a theater performance that underwrites and supports the African American theater in our community, and many other things. All of these things connect your UU superpower to our community. So as individuals and as the collective group, we all are needed to make this superpower continue to be a liberal presence in our community. It takes our time, it takes our talent, and it takes our money. I'm just going to say it the way that it is. So as we wrap up this month's canvas, I want to thank everybody who has gone ahead and submitted their pledge form already. We greatly appreciate that. If you haven't yet done it, please try to do it before the end of the month. There are blank pledge forms on the table in the back if you need one. If you don't want to pledge, but you want to contribute, we still have our online one-to-one match in place. You only need to indicate that you're part of the match, and it will be matched one-to-one. So, with all of these options, I'm hopeful that each and every one of you will find a way to unleash your UU superpower and contribute to the vitality and the viability of this congregation. And as Jerry has said to us, flame on!
I was just going to add that one-to-one opportunity. I mean, all of us, I bet you there's no one in here who couldn't afford to go online and pledge, not pledge, but give $10. It's instantly 20. 20 bucks, instantly 40. Now, wait. These are people who are new. Okay, yeah, if you have not pledged. But I know there's a bunch of new people here that have never pledged, right? So if you're new, go on there. Yes, ma'am.
Couldn't they just write a check, put it in the memo, and put it in our back?
They can do that too.
Thank you.
Yes, you don't have to go online. So, or yes. It is an anonymous donor. Yes, who is matching. But you can't have pledged before. But so I just wanted to say there's a lot of people here that, you know, are not pledging, but that's a really simple thing to do. Or, now here's an idea. Hadn't thought of this one before, Sandra. You know, you have relatives that probably think this is a pretty cool church. Maybe don't have a church. Maybe they've watched us a couple of times online. Say, hey, why don't you throw in a couple bucks that's going to get matched for us? Help us out. So why not? I'm not afraid to ask for money. There we go. Thank you for listening. All right. And do it joyfully, too. So our closing words are from the Book of Joy, and they are from Archbishop Tutu. He said, when you are feeling heartsick about the suffering in the world, give the world your love, your service, your healing, but also give it your joy.
And let us extinguish the chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
Happy people don't cheat. Happy people don't lie. They don't judge or hold a grudge and don't criticize. Happy people don't hate. Happy people don't steal. 'Cause all the hurt sure ain't worth all the guilt they feel. If you wanna know the secret, can't buy it, gotta make it. You ain't ever gonna be it by taking someone else's away. Never taking it for granted. You don't have to understand it. Here's to whatever puts a smile on your face. Whatever makes you happy, people. Happy people don't fail. Happy people just learn. But don't think they're above the push and shove, they just wait their turn. Always got a hand or a dollar to spare. They know the golden rule, what you're going through, even if they've never been there. If you wanna know the secret, you can't buy it, gotta make it. 'Cause you ain't ever gonna be it by taking someone else's away. Never taking it for granted. You don't have to understand it. Here's to whatever puts a smile on your face. Whatever makes you happy, people. These days ain't always easy to find. They're the ones that you want standing by your side. No time for greed, if they need some, give them a slice. And we'll all be happy people. Life is short, love is rare. We all deserve to be happy while we're here.